Blood pooled beneath Marcus Winters as he collapsed on the icy bus stop bench, clutching his chest. The medical alert bracelet on his wrist flashed red, counting down the minutes he had left to live without his medication. 60 seconds ago, he'd been a 35-year-old billionaire with everything and nothing. Now, as snowflakes melted against his feverish skin, he might not live to see Christmas morning. That's when he noticed the small boy staring at him, eyes wide with concern rather than fear. "Are you dying, mister?" the child asked, his breath visible in the December air. "Mom said Santa forgot us again." The boy told the lonely billionaire at the bus stop on Christmas Eve, as if sharing equally tragic news. Marcus felt his heart stutter, not from his condition, but from the casual devastation in the child's voice. His medication was in his penthouse, 20 blocks away. The streets were empty, his driver gone for the night, and his phone battery dead. The irony wasn't lost on him. He had enough money to buy the entire city block but might die here alone, with only this forgotten child as witness. That's when she appeared, Dr. Amara Johnson, running toward the bus stop, medical bag in hand, her dark brown skin flushed from exertion, long silky hair escaping from beneath her wool hat. She'd just finished her shift at the free clinic across the street when she spotted the emergency. What she didn't know, what no one knew, was that she'd been the anonymous recipient of Marcus's foundation grants for years, and that his death would immediately terminate all funding to her struggling clinic. "I'm a doctor," Amara announced, dropping to her knees beside him, not recognizing the city's most reclusive billionaire in his current state. "Tell me what's happening." As she assessed his symptoms with cool professionalism, the little boy tugged at her coat. "Can you fix him like you fixed my mom's cough last week?" he asked. Amara froze, recognition dawning in her eyes as she looked from the child to the man whose life was literally in her hands. This wasn't just any wealthy man having a medical emergency, this was Marcus Winters, the enigmatic philanthropist whose recent announcement to cut all charitable giving after New Year's had thrown her clinic into panic. The same man whose business practices had closed the factory where this child's mother had worked. Marcus saw the exact moment Amara recognized him, the flicker of conflict in her eyes. Would she help the man whose recent decisions threatened everything she'd built? "My medication," he gasped, fighting to stay conscious. "Rare condition. Penthouse at the Archer. 20 minutes without it and he couldn't finish the sentence. The boy's mother arrived then, breathless from searching for her wandering son. "Tyler," she called, then stopped short at the scene before her. In that moment, Marcus realized where he'd seen her before, in his office 6 weeks ago, pleading for him not to close the factory where she'd worked for 10 years. "You need to get to your medication," Amara said, making a swift decision. "My car's around the corner." As she helped him to his feet, their eyes locked, electricity passing between them despite the circumstances. "Why would you help me?" Marcus whispered. "You know who I am. What I've done." Amara's smile was tight as she supported his weight. "I took an oath to help people, Mr. Winters. Even people who might not deserve it." The little boy, Tyler, and his mother followed them to Amara's battered sedan, the snow falling heavier now, blanketing the city in silent white. None of them noticed the dark car idling across the street, or the man inside watching their every move with calculated interest. The drive to Marcus's building was tense, his breathing growing more labored with each passing minute. "Why did you cut the funding?" Amara asked, her knuckles white against the steering wheel. "The truth, while you can still tell it." Marcus struggled to focus, the pain radiating through his chest. "My board, they found irregularities. Someone's been embezzling millions from my foundation. They gave me an ultimatum, cut all funding or they released the story to the press." He grimaced. "I was trying to find the culprit before New Year's. Before people like you lost everything." Tyler piped up from the back seat, "Is he a bad man, Mommy?" His mother, Sarah, Marcus remembered now, hugged her son closer. "I don't know, baby. I don't think anyone's all good or all bad. They screeched to a halt outside the Archer, one of the city's most exclusive addresses. The doorman recognized Marcus immediately, rushing to help. "Sir, your assistant has been calling everywhere looking for you." In the lobby, Marcus's security team swarmed them, eyeing Amara, Tyler, and Sarah with suspicion. Marcus waved them off, his voice weak but commanding. "These people saved my life. Get me upstairs. Now." As they hustled him toward the private elevator, Marcus looked back at Amara, something unspoken passing between them. "Come up," he said, surprising everyone, including himself. "Please. All of you." What none of them realized was that this invitation would change everything, and put them all in terrible danger. Upstairs in the penthouse, after Marcus had taken his medication and the color had returned to his face, he stared out at the city lights with new eyes. Amara stood beside him, close enough that he could smell the faint scent of antiseptic and lavender. Tyler explored the vast space with childlike wonder, while Sarah watched nervously. "Your assistant explained everything," Amara said quietly. "About the embezzlement. $300 million missing over 5 years. Marcus nodded, studying her face. "What he didn't tell you is that all evidence points to someone at your clinic." He watched the shock register in her eyes, followed by fierce denial. "That's impossible. We account for every penny." "You can't possibly think," he cut her off. "I don't. That's what doesn't make sense. The transactions are being routed through your clinic's accounts, but someone else is pulling the strings. Someone who wanted me to cut your funding specifically." Before Amara could respond, Marcus's private elevator dinged. His assistant stepped out, face tight with concern. "Sir, the board is demanding an emergency meeting. They've seen the security footage of you bringing these people here." He glanced dismissively at Amara, Sarah, and Tyler. Marcus straightened, something hardening in his expression. "Tell them I'll be there in an hour. And Blake? Have security check everyone who enters the building. Especially board members." After Blake left, Marcus turned to Amara. "I need your help. Tonight. Someone wants to destroy everything I've built, everything you care about. Will you trust me?" Amara studied him, this complex man who wielded so much power yet had been utterly vulnerable in her care just 30 minutes earlier. "I barely know you," she said. "And what I do know isn't exactly reassuring." He stepped closer, their faces inches apart. "Then get to know me. Right now, while we still have time." What happened next stunned them all. The lights cut out, plunging the penthouse into darkness. Tyler screamed. Sarah called for him. And Marcus instinctively pulled Amara against him, shielding her as the sound of breaking glass echoed through the space. "Emergency protocol initiated," announced an automated voice, as red auxiliary lights flickered on. Marcus's security system had locked down the penthouse, no one in, no one out. Through the floor-to-ceiling windows, they could see the entire city grid darkening in sections. "It's not just us," Amara whispered against Marcus's chest. "It's the whole city." He released her reluctantly, moving to a hidden panel in the wall. "This isn't a coincidence," he said, revealing a safe behind the artwork. "Someone doesn't want us figuring this out." He withdrew a gun, checking it with practiced hands that surprised Amara. "There are things about me you don't know either, Doctor." The next 3 hours changed everything they thought they knew about each other. While the city remained in darkness, Marcus revealed his suspicions. His own board chairman, Victor Crane, had been systematically destroying Marcus's reputation while embezzling millions. The evidence was hidden in encrypted files on Marcus's private server, files that would be automatically deleted if Marcus died. "He needs me dead before New Year's," Marcus explained, as they huddled around the emergency lights, Tyler asleep on the sofa beside his anxious mother. "And he needs the foundation dismantled to cover his tracks." Amara's mind raced. "The night we met, your medical emergency, that wasn't natural, was it? Marcus shook his head grimly. My condition is real, but the episode wasn't. My water was tampered with. If you hadn't been there. He let the implication hang in the air between them. As dawn broke over a powerless city, Marcus and Amara had formed a tentative alliance, their initial distrust evolving into something neither expected: respect, understanding, and a dangerous attraction that flared whenever their hands accidentally touched over the documents they studied. You're not what I expected, Amara admitted, watching him interact gently with Tyler, who had woken and was fascinated by the billionaire who lived higher than the clouds. Marcus looked up, a rare genuine smile transforming his face. Neither are you. I thought clinic doctors were all idealistic crusaders who hated people like me on principle. Amara raised an eyebrow. Who says I don't? But her smile softened the words, and something electric passed between them, something that made Sarah glance away with knowing eyes. The power returned with the morning sun, and with it came the realization that they had just 12 hours before the board meeting that would determine everything. I can't go public without proof, Marcus said, frustrated. And the proof is locked behind Crane's personal encryption. Amara had been quiet, thinking. What if you don't need to break the encryption, she suggested. What if we set a trap instead? Her eyes gleamed with intelligence that captivated Marcus. Your board thinks you're weak right now, vulnerable after last night's episode. What if you play into that? As she outlined her daring plan, Marcus found himself admiring not just her beauty but her strategic mind. And when their fingers brushed over the makeshift map they'd created, neither pulled away, the contact sending warmth through them both despite the danger ahead. What they couldn't have anticipated was Tyler's role in what happened next. While the adult strategized, the curious 8-year-old had wandered into Marcus's home office, where he innocently pressed what looked like a cool spaceship button on the desk. The button, actually an experimental AI interface Marcus had been developing, activated, scanning the room and all occupants. New users detected, announced a pleasant voice. Initiating identity verification and background search. Before they could stop it, the AI had compiled complete profiles on Amara, Sarah, and Tyler, including the connection that shocked them all into silence. The DNA probability match flashing on the screen was unmistakable. Tyler was Marcus's nephew, the child of his long-estranged brother who had died in an accident 5 years ago. The brother Marcus had never reconciled with. The brother whose existence he had hidden from the world. Sarah collapsed into a chair, her face ashen. I never knew, she whispered. David never told me he came from this. She gestured at the opulent surroundings. He said he was estranged from his family, that they were gone. Marcus stared at Tyler, this child who shared his blood, who had his brother's eyes, and felt his carefully constructed world tilt on its axis. I looked for him, Marcus said, his voice raw. After our fight. For years. But he changed his name, disappeared. The revelation should have united them, but instead it raised a terrifying new question: did Crane know? Was this connection the real reason for the attacks? Amara watched the emotions war on Marcus's face and found herself reaching for his hand, offering silent support that he accepted with desperate gratitude. The trap they set for Victor Crane was elegant in its simplicity. Marcus called an emergency press conference, appearing weak and disoriented, the perfect target. He publicly announced his intention to dissolve his foundation due to health concerns, effectively giving Crane everything he wanted. What Crane couldn't know was that every word was calculated, every trembling gesture designed to draw him out. Behind the scenes, Amara had connected with trusted colleagues at the clinic, gathering their own financial records that would prove the money trail had been fabricated. And Sarah, discovering her new connection to the Winters' fortune, had found her own courage, agreeing to testify about strange men who had questioned her about her late husband's family. As they prepared to leave for the conference, Marcus pulled Amara aside, his hand lingering on her arm. If this goes wrong, he began, but she stopped him with a finger to his lips. It won't, she said with conviction that warmed him. And after, we'll figure out this. The unspoken attraction between them hung in the air, a promise for a future they weren't yet sure they'd have. The press conference was a masterclass in deception. Marcus played his part perfectly, appearing fragile and defeated as he announced the dissolution of his foundation. Cameras flashed, reporters shouted questions, and in the back of the room, Victor Crane watched with poorly concealed triumph. What happened next would be replayed on news channels for weeks. As Marcus prepared to sign the dissolution papers, Tyler broke free from Sarah and ran to the podium. "You can't let the bad man win," the boy cried, loud enough for every microphone to capture. "You're my uncle. You have to be brave." The room erupted in chaos as security moved in, as Crane's face contorted with shock, as Marcus knelt to embrace the nephew he'd just discovered. And in that perfect moment of distraction, Amara executed her part of the plan, delivering the final evidence to the FBI agents positioned throughout the room. No one saw it coming, least of all Crane, whose expression of victory transformed into horror as agents approached him instead of removing Tyler from the stage. The aftermath unfolded like a dream. Crane was led away in handcuffs, evidence of his embezzlement and attempted murder charges mounting by the hour. The foundation was saved, the clinic's funding secured for decades to come. Sarah and Tyler were welcomed into Marcus's life with a tenderness that surprised everyone who thought they knew the cold, reclusive billionaire. And Amara found herself standing on Marcus's balcony 3 nights later, the city lights below them restored to their full glory. "The board wants me to maintain a certain image," Marcus said, joining her at the railing, closer than propriety might dictate. "They think a billionaire philanthropist should be above personal entanglements. Bad for business, apparently." Amara turned to face him, moonlight illuminating her perfect features. "And what do you think?" she challenged, her voice soft but unwavering. Instead of answering with words, Marcus closed the distance between them, his lips finding hers in a kiss that answered every unspoken question. When they finally parted, breathless and transformed, he rested his forehead against hers. "I think life's too short to listen to the board," he whispered. "I think meeting you and Tyler at that bus stop was the real Christmas miracle." Amara smiled against his lips, her arms winding around his neck. "For a cynical billionaire, you're surprisingly sentimental," she teased. His laugh was genuine, perhaps the first truly unburdened laugh of his adult life. Inside, they could hear Tyler excitedly describing to Sarah all the stars they could see from Uncle Marcus's sky house. 2 broken families, somehow finding wholeness together on a Christmas that had nearly ended in tragedy. 1 year later, Amara stood in that same spot, an engagement ring catching the moonlight on her finger as she recorded a video for her clinic's fundraising channel. "Sometimes miracles happen when we least expect them," she said to the camera, her voice warm with emotion. "Last Christmas changed everything, not just for me, but for thousands of families who depend on our care. If our story touched your heart, share it. Subscribe to see our journey continue. Because everyone deserves their own Christmas miracle." Behind the camera, Marcus watched with love in his eyes, Tyler excitedly bouncing beside him. The boy who once believed Santa had forgotten him now understood that sometimes, gifts come in forms we never expected, and that the greatest gift isn't found under a tree, but in the family we choose and the love we never knew we needed until it found us at a snowy bus stop on Christmas Eve.